My parents found my new apartment before I even finished unpacking. Through the peephole, I saw my father's clenched jaw, my mother's fake calm smile, and an envelope in her hand with my sister's overdue bills inside. I had moved 600 miles away to stop being the family ATM. But somehow they still believed my door was the place where everyone else's consequences should be paid. My name is Rachel Mason, and for most of my adult life my family called me responsible when what they really meant was available. Available to help. Available to listen. Available to pay. Available to understand why everyone else had needs, emergencies, children, mistakes, and feelings more urgent than mine. I grew up in Austin, in a tan brick house at the end of a street where every yard looked almost the same. My father, Harold, believed order was the same thing as love. He liked rules, titles, and respect, especially when respect meant no one questioned him. My mother, Denise, had a softer voice, but she knew how to make one sentence feel heavier than a door slammed in your face. She never said, "Do what I want." She said, "After everything this family has done for you." That was usually enough. My younger sister, Natalie, learned early that tears could move walls. She was pretty restless and always in the middle of some crisis. A lost phone, a broken lease, a boyfriend who misunderstood her, a job that did not appreciate her, a bill that came at the worst possible time. I learned something different. I learned that if I stayed calm, people left me alone. If I fixed things fast enough, no one asked how tired I was. If I had money in savings, that meant I did not need comfort. If Natalie had no money, that meant I had too much. By the time Natalie had 2 children, my parents had built an entire family rule around her life. Natalie was overwhelmed. Natalie needed support. Natalie could not be judged. And I, because I had no children and a stable job, was expected to step in whenever the word family was placed in front of a demand. First, I did help. I paid for groceries once when Natalie said the kids had nothing in the fridge. I covered half a daycare bill when she cried on the phone. I bought winter coats, school shoes, birthday gifts, medicine, gas cards. I told myself it was for the children. I loved my niece and nephew. They were innocent. But slowly, help stopped being treated like kindness and started being treated like rent I owed for belonging. No one asked anymore. They informed me. Natalie would text, "Can you send 300 by Friday?" My mother would follow with, "She is really trying, Rachel." My father would add, "You have a good job. Don't make this difficult." A good job. That phrase became the handle they used to drag me into every problem. I was a project operations manager for a growing software company. The title sounded cleaner than the work felt. Most days, I was the person between impossible deadlines and people pretending they had not caused them. I managed budgets, vendors, angry clients, missed deliverables, and teams that slept less than they admitted. In October, we landed the biggest implementation contract our company had ever signed. For 6 weeks, my life narrowed to spreadsheets, calls, risk logs, and cold coffee. I answered messages at midnight. I woke up at 5. I ate protein bars over my keyboard and forgot what quiet felt like. When the project finally launched without collapsing, my director called me into a conference room and said the company was awarding me a performance bonus. A real one. Not a gift card. Not a polite thank you. A number large enough to let me breathe. For the first time in years, I looked at my savings account and saw a future instead of a waiting room for someone else's emergency. I could pay off the last of my student loan. I could build a stronger emergency fund. I could maybe finally move out of my noisy apartment near the highway. I wanted someone to be happy for me. That was my mistake. The following Saturday, I went to my parents' house for dinner. Pot roast, green beans, my father at the head of the table. My mother moving between kitchen and dining room like serving food was the same as controlling the weather. Natalie was already there with the kids. She looked tired, but Natalie always looked tired when she wanted something. During dinner, my mother asked how work was. I should have said, "Fine." Instead, I told the truth. I said the project had ended well, and I had received a bonus. For half a second, the table was silent. Then Natalie's face changed. Not joy. Not pride. Calculation. "How much?" she asked. I laughed because I thought she was teasing. "I'm not giving exact numbers." She leaned forward. "Well, I need help with daycare. And the car payment. And Mason needs dental work. My nephew was 5. He was eating mashed potatoes with his fingers. I said, "I'm sorry you're dealing with that." Natalie blinked, as if I had answered in another language. "So you can help?" I didn't say that. My mother put down the serving spoon. "Rachel," she said, calm and soft, "family helps family." There it was. The sentence that turned my paycheck into public property. I looked at my father, waiting for him to say Natalie was being unreasonable. He wiped his mouth with a napkin and frowned. "You're single," he said. "You don't have children. What exactly are you saving for that matters more than your niece and nephew?" Something in my chest tightened. I worked for that bonus. Natalie scoffed. "And I work all day taking care of 2 kids. No one said you don't." "Then why are you acting like I'm begging?" "'Cause you are," I thought. But I did not say it. My mother reached across the table and touched my wrist. "No one is asking you for everything. Just half. Just half." As if half of my exhaustion belonged to them. As if half of my sleepless nights had been worked by Natalie. As if half of my discipline was a family asset. I pulled my hand away. "No." Natalie's mouth opened. My father's chair scraped the floor. "What did you say?" I said no. The room changed after that. My mother's softness vanished. Natalie's eyes filled with tears so fast it almost impressed me. My father called me selfish. My mother said money had made me cold. Natalie said she hoped I could sleep at night knowing children were suffering because I wanted a bigger bank account. I stood up. For years, I had stayed at tables like that and explained myself until I was exhausted enough to give in. That night, I did not explain. I picked up my purse and walked out while my mother called my name in that wounded voice she used when she wanted witnesses. On the drive home, my hands shook on the steering wheel. Not because I regretted saying no. Because I finally understood that they had not heard good news. They had heard an invoice. That night, I made coffee at 10 p.m. and opened my laptop. I moved the bonus into a separate savings account at a different bank. I changed my direct deposit. I reset every password. I removed trusted devices I did not recognize. I enabled 2-factor authentication on every financial account, email account, cloud account, and phone carrier login. Then I froze my credit. All 3 bureaus. I set fraud alerts. I turned on transaction notifications. I downloaded statements. I checked old shared documents and changed the answers to security questions because Natalie knew the street we grew up on, my first pet, and my mother's maiden name. It felt dramatic until it did not. By morning, the messages started. Natalie sent a photo of the kids eating cereal at a small kitchen table. "They don't deserve this." My mother left a voicemail saying I needed to calm down and talk like an adult. My father texted, "Come by tonight. We are settling this." Settling this meant making me say yes in person. I did not go. For 3 days I answered nothing. That made them louder. Natalie sent lists of bills. My mother sent Bible verses. My father sent commands. Then Natalie sent the message that made my stomach turn. "Must be nice to choose money over blood." I stared at that sentence for a long time. Blood. People love that word when they want access without accountability. On Thursday evening while I was making soup, my phone buzzed with a credit monitoring alert. Someone had tried to open a store credit card in my name. For a moment, the apartment went quiet in a way that felt physical. Then my training took over. I saved the alert. I called the fraud department. I filed a report. I got a case number. I changed my freeze settings and added a stronger fraud statement. I created a folder on my laptop called Family Documentation. Inside it, I placed screenshots, voicemails, emails, dates, times, and every message where Natalie demanded money. Then I wrote one email to my parents and copied Natalie. "There has been an attempt to open credit in my name. I have reported it as fraud. From this point forward, all communication must be in writing. Do not contact my employer. Do not come to my apartment. Do not use my personal information for any reason." My father replied 13 minutes later. "How dare you accuse your sister?" My mother replied after him. "You are destroying this family." Natalie did not reply. That silence told me more than any confession. The next morning, I got a call from Mark, Natalie's husband. Mark was quiet, the kind of man who looked permanently tired from trying not to make things worse. He and Natalie had been fighting for months, but he usually stayed out of our family drama. This time his voice sounded different. "I need to tell you something," he said. I closed my office door. He told me he had found past due notices hidden in a plastic bin in the garage. Credit cards. Payday loans. A personal loan he had not known existed. Natalie had been moving money around for months, covering one hole by digging another. Then he said, "I heard her on the phone with your mom. She said if you would just give her the bonus, everything could look normal again." I gripped the edge of my desk. Did she try to open credit in my name? Mark was silent too long. She didn't deny it when I asked. There it was. Not proof for a courtroom maybe, but enough for my life. I thanked him for telling me. He said, "Rachel, I'm sorry. The kids are my responsibility too, not yours." I had to close my eyes, because that was the first time anyone in that family circle had said the truth out loud. The kids were not my responsibility. That did not mean I did not love them. It did not mean I wanted them hungry, cold, scared, or punished for their mother's choices. I had helped them before because I cared. But love for children cannot become a weapon adults use to force open your wallet. Aunt is not the same as emergency fund. Sister is not the same as cosigner. Family is not the same as permission. After that call, I knew Austin was too close. My apartment was 20 minutes from my parents' house. My mother knew my grocery store. My father knew my building. Natalie knew my schedule because she had borrowed my car once and never forgot anything useful to her. So I made a plan. My company had gone partly remote after the pandemic, and my director had been encouraging me to take a quieter role for months. I asked if I could relocate and keep my position. She approved it the same day. I chose Portland because I had been there once for a conference and remembered the rain, the bookstores, and the strange relief of being somewhere no one expected me at Sunday dinner. I ended my lease early. I rented a small apartment on the third floor of an older building near a park. I changed my mailing address to a private mailbox first, not my apartment. I told only my employer, my bank, and one friend from college. For 3 weeks, I felt almost weightless. I bought secondhand furniture. I joined a weekend walking group. I found a coffee shop where no one knew my family story. I slept through the night. Then a letter arrived at my private mailbox. Forwarded from Austin. My mother's handwriting. Inside was a single page. "Come home. Your sister is losing everything. You need to fix what your stubbornness caused." I laughed once, but there was no humor in it. I had not caused the debt. I had not caused the fraud attempt. I had not caused Natalie's lies. I had only stopped funding the illusion that none of it had consequences. I ignored the letter. A week later, they found my building. Later, I pieced together how. My mother had called an old family acquaintance who worked in property management and asked innocent questions. Natalie had seen part of my new work calendar when a forwarded email chain accidentally included my updated time zone and a co-working space name. Then a forwarded letter confirmed the city. People do not need a full map when obsession is willing to do the driving. That is what most people do not understand about leaving a controlling family. You cannot only move your body, you have to move your information, your mail, your passwords, your habits, your emergency contacts, your careless sentences. A person determined to reach you can build a bridge out of scraps. That afternoon, I was unpacking a box of books when someone knocked. Not a neighbor's knock. A command. I looked through the peephole and felt my whole body go cold. My father stood there in his brown jacket, jaw tight. My mother stood beside him holding an envelope. Her face wore that calm, wounded expression she used when she wanted to seem like the reasonable one. I did not open the door right away. My father knocked again. "Rachel, we know you're in there." I put my hand on the lock. For a second, I was 12 again. Then 20. Then 32. Every version of me who had ever obeyed that voice stood inside my chest, waiting to see what I would do. I opened the door only as far as the chain allowed. My mother looked at the chain like I had slapped her. "Really?" she said. "Yes," I said. My father's eyes narrowed. "Take that off." No. The word was small. Felt enormous. My mother lifted the envelope. "Natalie is in serious trouble. Mark left. The car is gone. They may lose the apartment." "I'm sorry to hear that." My father stepped closer. The chain held. "You need to come home." "No. This is your family. I know. Then act like it. I looked at him for a long moment. Where was family when I was working 80-hour weeks for that bonus? Where was family when someone tried to open credit in my name? Where was family when I asked you to stop and you called me selfish? My mother's eyes filled with tears. Your sister was desperate. Desperate people still have choices. She has children. And those children have parents. My father's face reddened. You think you're better than us now? No. I think I'm separate from you. And that seems to be what you can't stand. My mother lowered her voice. If you do this, Rachel, you may lose us. There it was again. Love as a hostage. I felt strangely calm. If the only way to keep my family is to pay for everyone's mistakes, then I lost you a long time ago. My mother flinched. My father said my name like a warning. I did not move. A boundary is a door with a lock. That day I finally understood it. A boundary does not mean I hate the people outside. It means they no longer get to enter by force. They can knock. They can speak. They can change. But they do not get to walk in just because they remember a time when I left the door open. I will not pay Natalie's debts, I said. I will not discuss my income. I will not be responsible for fraud I reported. And if either of you comes here again without an invitation, I will call the police. My mother whispered, You don't mean that. I do. For once my father had no command ready. I closed the door. Locked it. Then I stood there shaking so hard my knees hurt. But beneath the shaking was something I had not felt in years. Space. A few months passed. Natalie did not magically become a better person. Mark filed for separation and moved with the kids to Vancouver, Washington, for a job near his brother. Natalie followed later to be closer to them, and because Austin had become too expensive without everyone rescuing her. That is how I saw her again. Not by miracle. Not by coincidence that made no sense. By geography, custody schedules, and the ordinary mess of consequences. I was in a grocery store on a rainy Tuesday, comparing soup labels when I heard my name. Natalie stood at the end of the aisle in a gray hoodie. She looked thinner. Tired. Not tragic, not transformed, just human in a way I had never allowed myself to see because anger had filled the frame. She did not come closer. I'm not here to ask for money, she said. I almost laughed. She deserved that. But I only said, Good. She looked down at her hands. I'm sorry, she said. For the bonus. For the credit card. For making the kids part of it. For letting Mom and Dad fight my battles. I held the soup can so tightly the metal edge pressed into my palm. Did you try to use my information? She closed her eyes. Yes. The word landed between us. Small. Ugly. Necessary. I was scared, she said. That's not an excuse. I kept thinking if I could get one more account, one more payment, one more month, I could fix everything before anyone knew. And I was the account. She cried then quietly. Yes. For years I had wanted Natalie to admit what she was. But hearing it did not feel like victory. It felt like finally putting a name on a bruise. She asked if we could get coffee sometime. Just talk. No money. No Mom. No Dad. I did not answer right away. The old me would have comforted her. The old me would have made her shame easier to carry. The old me would have said yes just to prove I was not cruel. But I was not the old me anymore. I'll think about it, I said. She nodded. That's fair. And for the first time, maybe it was, I walked out of the store with my groceries, into the wet Portland evening, and realized something simple. I had not fixed my family. I had not saved Natalie. I had not convinced my parents to understand me. But I had done something I once thought impossible. I had stopped abandoning myself to keep a place at a table where my seat always came with a bill. Disclaimer. This video is created for the sole purpose of entertainment. All situations, characters, and stories in this video are fictional and are built entirely using artificial intelligence technology. We hope you have a relaxing time.